We are here coming off of a top 16 finish at the 2025 Albuquerque Regional. We have Wub on his Elder Toguro list, and he's going to take us through that.
Cool, yeah. So, yeah, ended up 15th place in this tournament. Would have liked to do a bit better, but things were lining up where I could have been in the top half of top four, and then like the back half of my tournament just didn't go very well. So I think this deck is pretty good. I was playing Elder on the evil symbol. I think we know what he does at this point, but I will kind of go into why we picked this and sort of go through what we're doing now, because this character lost a few really important things that people were doing in the past, namely Combined Firepower and Immortal Shapeshifter. Those were like his real big damage outlets, and without access to that stuff, like, it's a lot tougher to find the numbers to kill people. So the answer we came up with, or at least what I was doing for now, is this card, and, you know, obviously this is his card. And these are like, you can sort of argue a turn 3 or turn 4 kill, depending on if your opponent is interacting or not. Sometimes it goes a bit longer, but like, this is just usually 10 damage for very fast because you flip it, and then this can be a lot depending on their foundation scaling. And we play cards that make our opponents want to build wide to get around them, which makes this card very powerful. We have a few other ways to get there, but like, this is the primary kill conditions. We're also paying a lot of life in this deck, so this is kind of like a desperation perfect block, or, you know, just free omni block. You take half damage on, but you know, you get what I'm saying. So these are kind of given in an Elder deck. This might not be the most standard, but it was the easiest way to get to the number we had to find, because sometimes we just have to find that like 35 damage or whatever. Now the reason the evil symbol is really sick is like the other attacks we get to run. Obviously the actions are crazy too, but I'm going to talk about this one first. Max Overhaul, when you form it from discard, allows you to pick up a bunch of face downs that you flipped for various things, like your flip draws, any sort of stuff you flip for greater goal for stats, and then rebuild them. And that's like a really good proactive plan. I think one of the problems with the current format and playing Elder is if you are playing like not a lot of attacks, and you cause your opponent to be unable to complete their offensive turn, you just build past because you didn't have something to form that was productive. Like, maybe you form a Truant Hunter, check a 3, and then that's like actually not good for you. And then you do some number of damage and whatever. But like, forming this is just very proactive, it feels very good, and it's something you can do every turn easily. So this card is really nice, and I think it's like the primary reason to play the evil symbol. The other one is actually this. This card, when you play it from discard, is essentially a Chimera Kraken, and then it's also a breaker too, so it feels very good to block with and then form play it later. And then it also is the incidental text of stealing their character, which was hilarious because I killed the Ghidorah with it. Actually, no, I missed on the However, I was very close to killing a Ghidorah with it, and then a Reiner too. So, like, funny text, annoying to interact with. Defensive characters will become you know, on high alert when this card is on the table, and you can sort of play footsie with them and force them to overextend into blocking this card when you were just going to build pass a lot of the time.
You also have the fun interaction that you discovered mid-round of, I will aim this at a backup.
Yes, and it also just works against backups, which is crazy. I'm running this card and then this Knee Strike, and the reason this deck can be like a turn 3, turn 4 deck is if you're able to like poke with this early on or Max Overhaul and get a momentum, it's very easy to echo this, pick up 2 4 diffs, and find a string, even if True 100 or Final Charge weren't going to get there. This is here for Breaker 2, and it's also 7 damage, which is really nice because it gets the +3. And this can be an echo for 12, especially, you know, like if they're not blocking it. Or sometimes you flip it, see if they have a high block, and then, you know, if they do, the next one will definitely hit. Not definitely, but like a lot of the time. So this is also a card that pays life, which puts you under 10. Overall, this package just felt very good. I know a lot of Elder decks run a lot of 1-ofs. I did that a little bit in the sideboard, so I'll like go into that later. But in the main board, I think this is just kind of like a nice cohesive package. It's 16 attacks, which is a good deal more than a lot of Elder decks run. But this number made sense because of cards like Sweeping Daggers, essentially. So just kind of going into the foundations, the things I would want to show up first are like our targets for Max Overhaul, which are like selling old debts to draw. This card is really, really good. This card is Enhanced Flip a Committed Rival Foundation. So incompatible quirks, science bros, hacker extraordinaire, new number one, all sorts of like powerful commit costs on cards right now that you can flip. And then the deadlock on this just target destroys their resets or whatever if they build really wide, and then you can just pick it up and continue to it's kind of like risky gamble in that way. So it's really, really effective. And then the other card that we pick up with Max Overhaul a lot is Fighting for Control. And this card is great because this card we can sort of play with our opponent, make them commit to when they try and play a 5 difficulty card that they want to resolve, and then breaker them and sort of tax them really heavily. And we can actually capitalize on this because we're running like this proactive attack plan. So these are like the ones we want to pick up with Max Overhaul. And then the problem with Max Overhaul is also that like you're debuilding yourself and then it makes it difficult to build out. So because of that, we're running 8 zeros. This card is flip 2 damage, this card is fine. Sometimes you flip ready it. I actually don't think I did the whole tournament. But like the deadlock response, when you remember it has that, is nice. Essentially these are just plus 2 damage with Greater Goal or with itself, but they're easy to play when you're building out because you had to play an attack, maybe 2 attacks, and then pick up 3 foundations. You can be in a position where you can check bad. So you want to mitigate that and run a good number of zeros. Going through the rest of the foundations, I know I'm not doing these in the order of like difficulty, but I think every Elder deck needs to run this card at a 4x and also this card at a 4x because of how he interacts with flipping stats. He sacks after the fact, so this is an incredible like damage reduction package. Like the ability to flip a move that might have more damage than speed, and then on resolution all your Greater Goals activate and reduce the damage even further. You can just take nothing from moves that are enormous. This is a very powerful package. I think this is kind of like staple to this character. This is the thing I would say, no matter what symbol you're on, you should be trying to run that. And then we had, because we're damage reducing, we want to lower speed beforehand. So like this card is very good. If you want to block, there's that option. And then we have these for value to help us build out, that we remove with incubating. Normally you just remove anything, but this is nice because it is stats you can modulate. You know, when they're at 10, it's plus 4 damage and so on. Nothing that out of the ordinary in the rest of this stuff. Running this just for some stage interaction. You can blow it up, seal it. This is more ways of triggering Greater Goal, and also works very well with this card that we're running. This is our other like deadlock piece. This card, when your opponent touches deadlock, just draws an insane number of cards between itself and Brief Respite. So it's really, really nice to play. Definitely came up a lot. But this is essentially the foundation package. The last card here is Condescending, which is like a momentum out, really. Don't think I have a ton to say about this card, except for with Fierce Wings, it's really good because if you have a momentum, your opponent stuns you, you can respond, build this, and first flip their attack, which did come up. It's very nice. I think this is like one of the best ways of deleting an attack in the game right now. A lot of decks don't have a way to interact favorably with their attack being flipped face down. So that was the foundations. Because we're Elder Toguro, we get to run a lot of blue cards and some green ones, so I'll just go through them. This is a generic cancel for almost everything. When they can't interact with an asset, this is an incredible card for just keeping you alive. And then it's unique, but you just pitch extras, so it doesn't matter. I was very afraid of Nick Reagan, rightfully so. That deck is very scary, so running 4 of that card. And I was going to run more Runaways, but I cut to 3. These is just like your package for staying alive. Evil Symbol gets to run great defensive tools, and that's like the premier ones. And then the last set of actions are 3 Showdowns and 4 Fierce Swings. This turns into Barrier Shield. This interacts with Stun really well. This cancels action resets or interaction, and also it punishes like high zone attacks. Just great cards all around. If I'm running less of like a 4-check, like something like Fighting for Control, it's because there were too many 4-checks in the deck and I just had to cut things down. But I think those cards are all very good, and if they didn't check 4s, they would 100% be a 4x in the deck. It's just you have to make cuts like reasonably. So that's the main deck. I think it was 73 cards. The sideboard, I didn't get to use a lot of this, but we had an interesting theory. So we were going to cut a couple cards for relaxed meters, and then we had these 1-of attacks. And I'll go into why each one is in here, but we kind of were ideally trying to pivot into a, trying to use Yu-Gi-Oh terminology, Foolish Burial, like search your deck for an attack and play that specific hate piece out of the sideboard. So This blew up a lot of capes. This was the one that came in a ton. This one was just very cute and funny. I wanted to commit Deku on the move. It didn't come in ever. I didn't play any of them, but I had space on the side, and I was trying to find interesting attacks to bin with Elder in play. This was just hedging against Ymir. I think like if we search this and play it and then damage, we're a damage reducing deck, so Ymir will have a lot of difficulty hitting the backup and being able to use her enhances. And then this one was just like a really good deadlock that usually wouldn't be that profitable for our opponent because we tend to blow up foundations and skirt deadlock, and they have to build pretty wide. So if we become a 10-hander every turn with this card, it seems pretty good. Did not happen in practice, but that was the theory behind it. Really, these came into bin villainous teamwork. That was really it. So maybe in the future you just don't side relax demeanor and just side more villainous teamwork. And then the rest of the sideboard was 3 resets and a run for the 4th runaway. Just kind of cards against super aggressive decks. They didn't really come in. I felt like I sort of had enough. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about the side. Overall, I'm pretty happy with this. I think this deck was a great pick for this event. Obviously, by the time this goes up, AOT3 is out and everything's different. But overall, I think this is a character that has legs until all these defensive actions rotate, and I'm sure he'll be popping his head around when, players want to spike him, put in the effort, which I definitely did for this tournament and came pretty close. So, it is what it is, but I think that's pretty much all I had.
All right.